We are on the lunch break on day one in the questioning of Bob Lambert as a manager at the undercover policing inquiry. We've heard further questions about the deployment of Mike Chitty and the report that Bob Lambert wrote about that. I'm joined with Donald Driscoll of the Undercover Research Group. What have you made of what we've heard from Lambert this morning? I mean, it's been bloody hard going, hasn't it? He's so painful to listen to.
He is, and everything is drawn out. You can see why they've given him, 4 days to give evidence, because he takes his time over every answer. And you never know if he's going to remember anything or not remember anything. Or
he's like some sort of faulty thesaurus. He like sort of goes, he sort of uses one word, then pauses, and then uses another word for the same meeting, then pauses again, and it's just like, oh, Jesus Christ.
And he's using a lot of the same tactics of, well, yeah, that's what's there, or, you know, I'm not going to quite admit, and we saw this quite a lot in the last tranche about it. They don't quite admit, but they don't disagree either. Because they know if they disagree, they're in real trouble.
Yes, this is it. Yeah, it's not being drawn too much. No definitive.
Yeah, no, vagueness is the order of the day. But, you know, that's the SDS. Their intelligence was pretty vague. What used to be was really important, but we can't tell you anything. It's like, they go on a lot about, in their evidence, about how much they're proud of their time as special branch officers and all this here. And it's like, but what actually were you doing? You have this thing of being an elite unit, but only by, hey, we're really secret, so therefore we must be doing something important. And it's like, and so this whole thing pervades everything they do. It's like, never pin us down answers, because we can't really give you anything anyway. So
there was a lot made of the contact he was having with the unit after he stopped being a field officer and before he became a manager. And for some supposedly entirely secret unit, he seemed to have quite a lot of knowledge about what was happening in those times.
Yeah, well, again, you see it a lot in the evidence. It's like, oh, top secret unit. I knew they existed, but they were really secret. And it's like, but the more you scratch the surface, the more you realize it's a really open secret. And they're having meetings with each other, with the squads they're supposed to give intelligence to. So they're having briefings. Everybody knew, really. But it is very interesting that Lambert continues to have one finger in the pie, and you hear a lot about his report into Mike Chitty. Mike Chitty stuff, which we'll probably go in more detail, but I think it's worth using the back thing. This is when he wasn't in the unit, but it's on the back of which he becomes the DI of the unit. It's it sets him up for his career. So he's never taken one eye off this unit, and he really helped shape it. And in the previous tranche, we heard about the cabal. This group of undercovers who basically told managers where to get off, ran the show. And though Lambert leaves, his subordinates like John Dines are still in the unit, and he's a mentor to Andy Coles. We find out about. Tell Coles to do anything.
An excellent role model, Andy Coles.
Excellent role model. Coleman's
the dog,
So you can see that he's, you can see not just that he's in the background, but how he's in the background, and his all-pervading force is there.
Yeah, very much. I mean, it was pointed out that this welfare report that he wrote about Mike Chitty's deployment, welfare very much inverted commas, was written 6 days after he becomes a manager in the unit. And it's like points out like the amount of detail that he knows about what Mike Chitty had been up to. It's like, how did he assert that in 6 days? And he did one of his trademark smirks and goes, I don't know.
He's clearly been asked to investigate it. Well before he got appointed as manager.
And it took Barr had to point out to him that he'd found the tin full of love letters, that he'd extensively questioned Mike Chitty on this matter.
How did he manage to find that tin if he wasn't in Chitty's house sniffing around? That's the unasked question. It's like, there is a big question about where you got that information and how. Because did Chitty just say, here's this tin of like evidence being relationships? No, it really came obvious from stuff that and Barr was very good. And I want to say that the Barr has been absolutely excellent in slowly pincering Lambert, even at this early stage. But he's got Lambert to basically admit didn't care about relationships.
No, I mean, this came across very strongly. I mean, we see in the report that, yes, Mike Chitty had deceived numerous women into sexual relationships. I mean, what the report says is he engaged in numerous romantic relationships, but it's very clear, that these were totally deceptive. Of course they were. But that is, at no point is there any sort of like criticism of that. The criticism purely relates down to the fact that he continued to use his identity after the deployment was over. And it's that which is feared will expose the unit that is the whole cause of concern about Mike Chitty.
And this is what's referred to constantly as the golden rule. Thou shalt not expose the SDS. Anything goes by any means necessary. The one rule that you cannot break is put the whole operational secrecy into jeopardy. Operational secrecy is the carte blanche. You can do anything. You can, as long as you can stick an axe in somebody's head. I think as something else says, you can do anything. Just don't jeopardize the secrecy. So, and this is where Barr's questioning, got him to basically admit, didn't care about relationships, didn't care that Chitty might have actually fathered a child. None of that mattered, and it goes all the way up. You see all the senior officers of discussing his report, and Barr goes, but so everybody would have concluded that there was a relationship going on, and nobody addressed the issue to it.
Nothing at all about it. No, not at all. I mean, he even goes through this list of deceiving multiple women into relationships, fraudulent expense claims, drink driving. None of these things mattered. Only thing that mattered was he was using the Mike Blake identity afterwards, and it was. Lambert's report was, let's pay him off, give him early retirement, and let him carry on living a debauched lifestyle as Mike Blake, because once he's been paid off, he's less likely to expose the unit.
And he actually says the word debauched.
Yeah.
In the report. Yeah, this is, I think a very, very key moment where you see how far the SDS will use resources. At one point, use resources to protect itself. Which is going to we'll see later. This evidence really escalates, especially with Nines. But Barr picked up on something. He says that you were using SDS resources to keep a tab on a former officer. And basically Andy Coles was targeted. He keeps going back into South London Animal Movement. You mind keeping an eye on him? And Barr, right? Yeah. So you're using SDS resources to basically protect yourself. Happy to spend money on it, and it'll only get worse.
Yeah. No. Absolutely. I mean, it was interesting that in his report, Lambert claims that if he does expose former officers, then the officers and their families will be at the very least exposed to postal bombs. And it's pointed out to him that obviously, no former undercover officer has experienced any form of violence like that since they've been exposed. And furthermore, his senior officers, the senior management, didn't believe him with this risk assessment at all.
And it was also pointed out, that his only knowledge of that would have come from his own, the people that he himself had targeted, and he had to admit it was that wasn't their style.
No.
Property damage, yes. Targeting people, a clear no. So you're constantly that constant little overstatement, and suddenly it becomes gospel.
Yeah, the exaggeration of perceived risk. The exaggeration of perceived risk has been such a key part. I mean, I've said that phrase so many times in the last one. Exaggeration of perceived risk. It's just constant.
And the managers are all in on that. They know it's it covers their back. But we had this risk. They don't believe it. It's just useful cover. It's London rules. Cover your ass, exaggerate the risk. Lambert's the master of it. But, he learned that from somewhere else. And he learned it, from his managers.
Yeah, absolutely. It is really hard going following him, though, isn't it? I mean, at the last 15 minutes, people were following my tweets as we're going along. They slowed down quite a lot of the last 15 minutes just because my brain wanted to jump out of my head to stop listening to his just going nowhere answers. And I mean, Barr was getting irritated with him as well, cutting him off. He started trying to talk about other things. When he was this whole thing about his exaggeration of perceived risk around postal bombs, started talking about some vivisector from years ago that had been, and it was just this is not the topic. Even one time he offered to repeat what he'd said, and Barr was like, "No, please, God, no."
And the sad bit about that, or I would say, but the unfortunate bit about that is that there are actual gems within it. There are little things. Oh, he has just basically made that relationships weren't openly known about the thing. So it's like, it's not headline stuff in the sense it's Lambert has definitively said this, but it's like, okay, Bar's going to say 2, Bar's going to say 3 over here, and together he's now got 5. And it's chipping away, and Lambert is going to really struggle to remember all the lies and things. When you go back and you put it together, you're going to see that he has admitted. But
he's always been very contradictory.
I don't know ever been an opportunity of a police questioning somebody where somebody's talking, and you think, oh, but this little answer doesn't mean anything. This little answer doesn't mean anything, and then you read the full transcript. You went, oh, he's actually given quite away a bit. He hasn't realized how much he's given because he's defending one point by letting another point slip through.
Yeah, absolutely. That's been a huge part of it, and a huge part of the style in which Barr kind of constructs the way that he questions people, like laying these little traps, getting little bits of information, which then may crop up again in 2 or 3 days' time.
Oh, almost definitely. Is like we've not heard the last of these topics, but at the same time, he is also laying the foundation for the whole of Lambert's management style, which is the next step. Because even when he stops being manager, he's still managing the unit. Somehow. So the passivity of the management and the importance of the golden rule. We see Lambert has basically had to admit that the golden rule, do not jeopardize security, is preeminent. Now there's a lot of material to come on how that played out in practice, and none of it is good for the SDS.
No, absolutely, it's just the way in which everything could be sacrificed. Everything else can be sacrificed in relation to that,
including his. He's thrown himself under the bus.
Yes.
Because Barb's going, you heard that Mike Chitty might have a kid. You have a kid.
Yeah, and I mean also in order for the golden rule, he abandoned his own child in order to protect the golden rule.
Yeah, so this is the subtext, just how Lambert identifies himself with the SDS and success, and to the point that nothing else matters. It struck me during the evidence was how much, and I just, it's not an important question, but how much he modeled himself on Conrad Dixon, the founder of the unit. This sort of like savant, SB officer out there making changes, at the forefront of stuff. He wants to be Conrad Dixon of the 1990s, creating this new intelligence world, making the SDS into something else. I'm very curious to know how much he has that self-perception of himself as this elite special branch officer who can do no wrong because, he's ideologically pure.
Yeah. He's honestly, so difficult. Such an unpleasant person to, when you're sat in court listening to him, it does feel like you're spending time with him, and it is so incredibly unpleasant.
One thing is he's unpleasant, but remember from the previous hearings how unpleasant all the other officers came with, but they're the natural extension of what he is laying now. Their unpleasantness is just continuation of Lambert's.
Yeah, absolutely. We've just had some comments, but please, if you've got any questions or comments, please do leave them. Very true. A lion needs to have a good memory. They will catch him out. Yeah, absolutely. I think there've already been things he said which you've just thought that's going to come back and haunt you. Hopefully there'll be plenty more of them to come.
Yes, if you can listen, do.
Yeah, if you can bear to listen.
If not, follow Tom's tweets.
Yeah, we'll be back. We'll be back again. We'll be back in the hearing room at 2:15 till 2 o'clock. So the broadcast should start at about 2:15. Though things sometimes do run late. But please do tune in. If you're able to if you've got any comments to make, just start using social media. Just use the hashtag SpyCops so that people can find what you've got to say about it. Anything else you'd like to add?
Not at the moment. I'm sure I will later.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, we'll see you again later on this afternoon. Cheers for now. Please like, share, comment.